Why is storytelling important to you?
First of all, when I collect what makes me collect the stories is that my grandmother died in 63, somewhere around there. And that's when I thought maybe I should try to record some elders. So I began to actually collecting the stories then. But before that, it was 1955 that I was, 57, when I get the idea, recording stories. But at that time, there was no recording machine the way we had it then. It was a tiny thing which is made by Japanese. And it sounds like a chipmunks when I turn it on. So I didn't like that very much. So it so happened there was a priest who was related to the rich people in Montreal by the name of Bombardier. People at Bombardier. So he is related to them, and he get the best of equipment that they can buy. And he had a very best recording machine with the reel-to-reel stuff. And he started to record the Willis people, the elders, that time, 57. And I really enjoyed that recording, and I wanted to do it myself. But he never allowed me to have it. So it was only 1965, then I was looking after the priest house, and the recordings were there, and not covered, and the machine. So I turned the machine on and put on that story into my cassette. This time I had a good cassette then. So that's how I get this old people recorded in my cassette tape recording. Actually, that began really started, okay? So in 1978, I began to do the interviewing the elders without recording. And then in 1982, I make a trip, around the James Bay to visit the elders, to ask them the spirituality, I think their religion. And I went to 5 communities or 6 communities to ask them what did they think about it. So I got it on. And then I went to visit them again in 1992. This was to do with treaty making. How much did they understand that thing, when they were there? They were living, these elders. They were very old by the time when I saw them. So they didn't know much about what was going on. So that's why I got these things so important for me, because it's a historical thing, okay? So that's how I started off. And then everything else happened accidentally, not actually planning what I'm doing. Somewhere around there, 1982 or 83, there was a program in Canada with Canada and the other countries having what they call cultural exchange exercise. It was federal government funded, okay? And that's when they asked me if I would like to make a trip to Europe. And of course I said, yes, I will. So I went to Netherlands, to Amsterdam, just to show my storytelling, okay? And of course I know all the legends and things like that because I hear them when I was 5 years old. So it's all in my memory. But they only gave me 1 hour to speak in that. There were many people in there in the audience, and also the foreigners are waiting on the line. So I had an hour to give an example of my story, so I did. I gave this, the little widget guy that we have, our famous guy, we call him our national hero, because he's very outstanding, a little guy, the midget. So they enjoyed that stuff. They truly enjoyed it, and they were just couldn't stop coming and shake hands with me. They asked me, how does he do that, this Mitchell guy? And I thought, it was hard to tell. So anyway, I returned home and then I began to travel all over after that. I went to the Yukon White Horse maybe 4 times, eh? And then I went to Northwest Territories and Rankin, they call it. And then went to the state 3 times. I went to Louisiana, I think it is, they call it, a town called Louisville. I went there. And also I went to the west, the state of Seattle. I traveled through there and stopped for a while. And then the next state is Oregon. And that's when I went to visit because I was traveling with the people collecting stories. And then again, I went to a place in Indiana, the state of Indiana. I forget the name of that. There was Indian community there. The story about the man, an Indian person who organized tribes in Canada in the state, to form the large army to fight against the United States. But apparently they killed him, unfortunately. So you had a traitor in this group. So I went to visit that graveyard, fooling around, and I was pretending to cry on that stone. I was just fooling around. I need to know the guy. So that's how I get traveled a lot, by doing that, by not scaring to go somewhere and just having my stories and all that stuff. So after that, I get more serious, and then I began to take serious subjects and then think about writing a book. So I did write a book, the first one. And then it was my own writing, handwriting, things like that. And my English was not that good yet. I mean, it's still, I'm not an expert. But I was working in the University of Winnipeg when the professors began to join in. Instead of them giving them a paper for the subject, they put it in that book, they didn't believe my story, but to make it so recorded, they put their work in there. But the thing is, what happened there when they do that? They change my story. It's not more authentic because they put so highly terminology, so well written, and it's not me speaking anymore. But people like it. They like that book. And the next thing I did was in Winnipeg, while I was working there for 4 years, I asked one of the person that worked with us, and I said, write my stories exactly the way I speak, no editing. She did. Her name is Susan Gray, and she's still in Winnipeg somewhere, or maybe, I don't know, it's gone somewhere. But she did write it good in the way I speak, and that's called Spirit Live in the Mind. Some people like it very much because it's real. It's not, the English is not perfect, but it is me who speak. Okay? So that's a quick history of my storytelling and also writing. So that's first part. And the second part is, the second thing that I begin to understand is that I begin to be aware that our culture was almost dying. And I know that our language is going to be gone maybe within 50 years or even sooner. That's when I begin to think I should write this down in my language. So the generation come next, at least they will have a book written down in our language. That's what I'm doing right now. So the stories I got there, lots of them. There's about 300 hours of stories. And now they are working at it here in our Ontario office, which is called Ojibwe Cultural Center. That's where they start writing right now. I hand them over my tapes and cassette and CDs and everything. So they all working on it. I lent it to them. I didn't give it to them. I still have my copyright. So I instructed them. I said, I could lend it to you because they need information so much for the job they do. But they wanted me to give it to them. I said, no. I said, I will not give it to you, but you will do something in exchange. I will give you. So they said, what do you want? I said, I want these stories to be written in Cree, in my mouth. They sort of stunned them a little bit for a while. So they find out later they might be able to get money. They got money. So like the one that Mr. Joe mentioned, for the language to be said, they got that money. I couldn't get the money because I'm alone. I'm not an organization. So even though I asked for it, I couldn't get it. So they got it. So this is a deal. So in time, that writing, it will be in Cree like the way I speak. And the reason I have stated in there, I said, we, the Canadians, are multicultural nationalities. And those recently people who come in from Europe, they brought their skill, their knowledge, their language, a written language, everything they brought in here to make the Canadian rich. And I said, where is the First Nation book? That's the thing that hit them. I said, we don't even write a book about this. We are the First Nation. That's what hit them, and they said, okay, we'll see what we can do. They finally got it. So that's the idea, is to have our history, at least one section of Canada. Later, the other provinces will do the same, to have their history before white man. It will be written in their dialect. In West, to the East, and here. Our dialect is a little different than Manitoba. And to the East, it's a little bit different dialect too. And so into the West. So they will have each that kind of history book in that part of the country. That's my opinion, my hope. So that's my work. Quickly. Summarizing, okay?
I really love your book, The Spirit Lives in the Mind. Also telling our stories. Whenever I have questions about my culture or family, if my family doesn't know, that's a place that I will go to look for hints and clues that I can, that'll give me hints that I can use to ask the questions I need to ask. So they're really beautiful books. I was also wondering, in all of your travels, learning those stories and collecting those stories from people, I was wondering if you had a favorite story and if you could tell us about it.
My travel? You mean my travel, where I went?
When you were collecting the stories.
The communities that I went to travel in here, in our air section, it's especially the Muskego, they call themselves, the Muskego tribes. So these are the communities I went to visit within James Bay and Hudson Bay, Luland. So their dialect can be written the way they sound. So I did interview many other outside, like the Ojibwe, and also in Manitoba. When I went to work, I met some elders that I listened to, and their stories is almost the same, the way we have. So now, the biggest important thing here, my story is to show the history before white man. That's what I'm getting at, okay? What was the mentality of our ancestors before any other nation came? What was the religion? What was the belief? And also, how did they survive without any help from outside world? How did they know, like what they call great spirit? did they have a church? So I find out, no, they didn't have no church, but they have fragmented here and there, but similarities are always there. So it contains these things in legends. There are 5 legends that I know of, also applicable across Canada, a different name. There is 5 human legends, 5 human, okay? And then there's an animal, and then there's some birds, and then a little bit of reptiles, you call them, those the little animals, and then everything else included in there. And the legends that we have, you could mention, it is mentioned there like European or the Middle East, the idea of God. We have that. I didn't know that when I was young, but it's contained in there where the animals are mentioned. It says animals one time live in this land and they think they act very precise respect to the land. And they have the creator. Animals have the creator, they know. And they speak the language together. With the different sound they make, they understand each other. That's what it says. And so that was fascinating for me. And then they also says, how did they get to know this great spirit? So there's a little short story in there. Very, very short, okay? There was a world somewhere, but not here. There was a world out there somewhere. And then there were 2 young people who love each other so much, a boy and a girl. And they were just teenagers and they want to get married. And when they want to get married, they say, I wish we could leave this place and go someplace else. And they walk around in this land, all of a sudden, they hear the voice, thunder voice, like a very powerful voice. And it says, do you really want to go live in that land, that earth? And they said, yes, please, can we go there? And then the big voice says, you shall go there. But before you go, I want you to go to the end of this land and you're going to meet Mr. Ahab. He will help you to go down there. So they went. So they found Ahab, tell him they want to do, and he says, okay, give me time. And then he make a string to lower them there. And then he did. And then he says, after I get a little ways, they were so anxious, they said, quickly, we want to go down. And then Ahab says, no, don't get excited too much. When you get to see it, how beautiful is it? Only one person should look that boat. And they said, okay. And then when they get down, it's so beautiful, they couldn't help it. Both of them look down there. And that's when the thing stopped. And they landed on top of Thunderbird nest. There get stuck. And so the big guy says, you see, I told you not to do it. So he says, how do we get down? Ask the animal to take it down. So they did. They asked many animals go there. The caribous go there and they said, come on, take us down. But the caribous says, look at my roof. I can't go up there. Every word animals, they try to help. Something is a short bit. Finally, the bear came around and he says, okay, I'll try. She went up there and cast them one at a time and over. The other animals helped too. And then when they get to the ground, and that's when the Great Spirit again speaks to them and says, the animals will teach you how to live here. And they say, thank you. But before that, let's go back a little bit, okay? The animals were created first, and they were in the earth. Animals, they know about the land, they know how to live. And then one day, there was no human yet. And then one day, they met someone that looked two-legged and arm and everything. And this was the call, they call him MICEC. We call him in English, painful spirit, okay? MICEC. And then he came to visit animals. And they said, who are you? And he said, I am the spirit. I said, what are you doing here? And he says, I came to tell you there will be another creature amongst you. It's going to look like me, 2 legs, arms, and everything. And then you people will have to teach them how to survive. And so they said, okay, but in time. Said, when is it? And then in time, many years, centuries, finally there was amongst the animals, there is human to the east. Looks exactly like MICEC. And he's come to the west. He's going to visit. Everybody's very kind and very gentle and loving. And so they made him, this was MICEC. He had predicted to the animals that he will be there as human. And when he appeared, and then it was him. And that was a great spirit. But the thing is, before he came to stay, he came to visit one more, just to visit them, animals. So he stayed with them a little bit, each animal, and tried to live with them to feel what they are. So he became a caribou, he became a goose, and he became almost joined them. And it was in one mistake he made. He joined the caribou herd because he thought it was very nice. So when the fall came for the mating, he was a big guy, and so all those caribous gave him their fur and everything. And soon he stand there like a caribou, a bull. And then the bull says, you have to fight me. After that, he says, you can have your herd. You're going to have to look after them and serve them. And then he fights with this big bull. Soon he beat them. And then finally, the beaten caribou says, okay, you win. Now these are your herd. You're going to have to serve the female in the fall. And of course, he's like, get all excited and start to work right away. And serving the female mostly, because it's enjoyable. So he didn't know how to stop. And then finally, when the time comes to run away, he stayed behind. He couldn't walk anymore because he's skinny, because he trained himself out. So when the caribous run away, then he fell down. When he wake up, he was MICEC again. Okay, that's a quick part of the story. Very short, okay? But it's very long, okay? So he does make mistakes like that, lots of them. Each animal, he joined them and he made a mistake all the time. But to us, he is a great spirit. He made a mistake. And so, how do you like that short example story? Do you like it?
Oh, that was awesome. Kinanaskomitin. I love that. I do just have a question about, because I've read some of your books and there's so many wonderful characters that you talk about. I think you referred to, when you said the national hero, did you mean Chikabesh? Is that who you meant?
Hey,
Is that,
say it again.
you mentioned the national hero, and you called him like he's a short guy. Is that
Chikabesh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I really love those stories.
You hear about them? Did you hear about them?
Just a little bit. Opposites.
I'm like, yeah.
Opposites. So far, I've
That's
only heard,
okay. That's another very exciting guy. He's different than the first one, eh? But he's it's just the fun we call our national hero, eh? There was not actually no such a person, but it's just we make it up. Okay, let me short a breath now.
I really like the your story of Wasekajak, even though I hear that Wasekajak makes mistakes and sometimes he's greedy, sometimes he doesn't know how much too much is too much, and he does all these things. I can see myself in that. You know, I can feel better about the way that, you know, when he gets mad or, you know, that all those things, I can see that in me. I can feel that in me and I can say, okay, there's a reason. And you know what? Sometimes there's good things that come out of it. You know, he might not make a good caribou. He adds
You
to
see,
our land.
that's what those legends are. That's how we're just like in our language, in our culture, they're just like a books, different subject in our life, eh? So this gets fulfill one, and Jack Harvey's also played the other part, and then the other characters in there. There's 5 humankind, eh? The 2 of them, they are almost the same, but they do most about the mistake that need to be respected and to be a good person. And it shows you, you know, where did they make a mistake, and at the end, they paid their mistake. It's just a teaching not to do that, okay? And each, they know the right and wrong. And that's a big teaching when you listen to those 5 legends. And I also enjoy the animal stories myself too. They're very long. The animal stories, there's about 10 parts to it, stories. And each of them, they have 10 parts each. Even this little guy, he has 10 experience in life. And MICEC, of course, he is, maybe he had more than 10 because he made many mistakes. And so the others, I could go on and on. It's a teaching. So you hear it when you're 5 years old. As soon as you understand your language, you hear it. And you grow up, and as you grow up, when you become a teenager, the story begins to apply in your age. Okay, when you begin to be a teenager and you begin to be mature a little bit, when you begin to experience, you know, you're growing up. And as you get married and have a child, it changes again. It helps you to understand how to deal life. Even the elders amongst us, they have their own stories and to find the comfort in each other. It's all those education system. And that is why I thought we should have written them down. It would have been our national Bible. Sorry about that. You know, I just thought that's just the way I look at it. We are the only nation in the world. We don't have no book to relate to many things. We should do that. Create our own history and teaching system and understanding of Great Spirit, understanding what's evil and what is good. Everything, okay? And that's how I get to be as I get old. Begin to understand that. Of course, I'm only 18 now. So I'm 8. And I'm 88. 88.
That's funny.
I love the stories. Like, I love the way the stories are because you can carry them and be excited and just think, oh, like silly Wasagajak, or, you know, you can just think of, oh yeah, you know, and it's just to know the stories and entertain. But then it's like when you need them, when you're going through your life and then you see yourself stuck somehow, all of a sudden it like clicks in. But it's not somebody telling you this is the way you have to be. It's you opening up what you were given.
There's one I like. I used to like this, mystifies me when I was young. About this little guy, you know, this Sakatis. He's a great, powerful spiritual person. Okay, he can do anything. He can beat big man or anything. Even though he's only about 6 years old, he has a power, mind power. But they call that in English, they call it mind over matter. He can beat the giant, he can beat the animal just by using his mind. So he's a hero, that's what we call him, a hero. And also he can predict the future. He found out. one little bit I want to tell you about him. He grew up with the sister as a parent, as a guardian, as an advisor, and he remained as a 6-year-old. So wherever he goes, his sister says, be careful now, be careful. Whatever you see, don't go. Come and tell me first. And then also she says, whatever you hear, come and tell me what it sounds. And so he says, okay, sister, I shall do that. One day, he was hunting in 50 miles inland at least, and he was tired of eating the same food there, rabbit and spruce tree and all spruce branches. So he said to sister, I'm so tired of eating these things. Yeah, what do you think you can do here? I'm going to go to the bay. You can eat some shortboard. And I said, so far away. I said, be careful, you're going to hurt yourself. So he went. One day he went out just the ways and shot a few rabbits. And then at the sunset almost, then he was then he thinking, I should be out there. As soon as he wished to go there, he was standing there on the shore. Shorebirds were there. He's got this mighty bow and arrow, eh? He started to shoot him. Finally, he decided, well, that's good enough. He put it in his pack and ready to go home. As he was packing, he heard the voice way out in the bay amongst the ice. And it sounds like, oh, he, 3 times. And he stopped. It's a human voice. So he just wondered, there's no people there. He knows that there's no people there. So he packed up quickly and then he just wished to be home and he's right there, still thinking about that voice. So he walks in, more like days, threw his bag to the sister and then, what's wrong with you? Said the sister. Just wondering, I hear something out there. Said, where? Way out in the shore where I went. Just now a while ago. What does it sound like? She says, oh, he, oh, he. Oh, she said, you see what happened to you? You hear the voice of a human that's gonna be years ahead. You have traveled far in the future. And someday these people will come here with their boat, and that's what you hear when they hoist the sail. Heave, oh, heave. His sister tells him that. And then she says, don't you ever go there again. And he says, no, sister, no, cross my heart. No, he didn't do that. Didn't do anything about crossing my heart. So anyway, he promises to not to go there, not even to go out there. But he did exactly that the next evening. He went there just the right time when he was there. He was there. Instead of just sitting, he shot the seagull and jumped to his body and flew over there. And he saw this ship-like a thing with sails. And he landed on top there, and they're human. And they're working. And that's what they sound like when they hoist up this white something, cotton or some kind of something material that move with sail, not a sail, eh? So he watched them. And one of them had come out there and was chewing something, eating something, he'd throw it over there. So he went down, grabbed it. Almost one of those men would throw him a stick, almost at him. So he grabbed the stuff and fly away. And that was a bread, a panic, whatever it is. So he put it in his bag and then went home. When he threw his bag into his sister's, he dig in and he said, what's this? Oh, you did well, didn't you? And yeah, I'm sorry, sister, I'm sorry. So he tells a story. And he says, that's what happened. These are the people who will be here. You went ahead in the future. And that's what you saw. They could have killed you, maybe not. So that's the part I enjoyed. Do you know what that means? He was able to travel in time time travel. That's how powerful he was. So you think today people talk about time travel still today, they still can't do it. He did it. You see what I mean? Okay. The magic started. Okay. Anything else?
I wanted to open it up. I just wanted to remind people who are watching live on Facebook that you can ask questions in the comments, and I can read them out to Louis for you. And I had another question. Earlier you mentioned that MICEC Jack is such a good teacher. And I was just wondering, what is, do you have a lesson that you learned from MICEC Jack? Or what is the favorite lesson that you learned from MICEC Jack, I guess?
There's lots of things that I learned. It's like you understand, he overdid it. That's his mistake. He's greedy. He is greedy. Okay. When he gets something, he wants more than he should have. Like the time when he come into those molding geese and ducks in the lake someday, and he was not satisfied to have only one. He could have get one to eat, but instead he went back into the bush and sat down and think about how might I get more than one. Decided what to do. Finally, he said, "I tricked him. I got tricked." So he put the moss in his bag. The one you carry like 100. Put a moss in there and a stone to look like a weight. And so he walks out into the open on the shore. Ducks and geese were there, eating, trying. They finally noticed they know him. They heard about him. And so, oh yeah, that's MICEC Jack. I wonder what he carries in the bag. They talk to each other. And then finally said, let's ask him. So the ducks run over there, flap over there, and they said, "Hey, what's in the bag?" And he says, "I've got nothing to do with you. None for you to know what that is." He teased them. And then they get so excited. The others came in and asked him, "Show us what you carry there." And he says, "No, I don't do that." Finally, tell us anyway. He says, "My songs, these are my songs. I carried them in there." And then they say, "Okay, sit down and sing for us." We will live there, all rushing down. And then he says, no, that's not the way I do. It's not the way I operate. I have to make first a place where I could sing, like some place like in closer, so I can sit there and sing for you. And you go ahead. It was only not yet sunset. Says, "You got lots of time." And they went into the bush and crash, 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 and you put all those trees around, just like the way you see sometimes when the native people are dancing there. That's what he was making. And closer, doorway there, a little bit covering there, so the geese will not fly away. So he sat there. He said, I'm done." So they're all rushing into his teepee. I mean, enclosure. And he says, "Okay, just sit down," and I began to sing. "And when I sing, you do exactly what I say. Whatever I say when I'm singing, you're going to start doing." So he began to sing with the little drum like that, and he sang his song. It's so captivating. You really have to go along with it. And what he says, you have to do it. Finally, he says, "Now get together and hold each other and blah, blah, blah. And then put your head together and hold each other." And then you have put those strings out there, those roots out there, flexible roots. And when they dance like that together, they had the swans, they were just like this. And he took the string and tied them and threw them over there. And he did the same with the kind of geese and the ducks and everything. Soon there was hardly anything on on the dance floor. The loon began to be suspicious. And he opened one eye and looked in there, and he saw MICEC tying those geese and threw them over there. And he screamed and he said, MICEC is killing us, he says, and all of them rushed into the doorway. The loon, he's not a very good runner, eh? He fell down and all the geese ran over him, and then MICEC managed to step on his back. That's why you see the loon have a shoulder like the him in there. Can't walk, yeah? That's MICEC. So that's first part. Second part is when you want to cook. Now I have whole geese and ducks and everything in here. And you say, how am I going to cook these things? And so he says, okay, I will just put them in a whole bunch on the sun, on a hot sun. Don't have to plug them or anything. So you dig a hole, make a big fire. And then I said, white hot, and just put them in there like stick out the feet. And so when he was waiting, he lay down. And I went, while they cook. Then he lay down on his side, the river is there, and he talks to the real end, and he says, no, you look after. Let me know if anyone. And so he went to sleep. And so there were some men at that time. They were men. I don't know for sure if they were men or another kind of animals. They came around the bend, they saw this real end sticking out, and they said, look, they said. And they said, oh, see, must be MICEC, they said. He must be hiding something. And so one of them says, wait a minute, I'm gonna check. She went to sneak around behind there. And every time when he went to sneak in and that real end wanted to let the gas go, the warren, and he just goes, then it stopped. Then finally, he waved at the others and they came and they tag all the geese and cut the feet off, stick it out again, and off they go. So when MICEC finally wake up, and he said, oh, he said, I must be overcooked now. So he got up and pulled a sawn feet, and only the feet came out. There was nothing in there. All over, they all been stolen. And you can check there on the shore, there's a footprint, all kinds of steel animal. So that's it. And he was very mad. It goes on and on. Okay? It's another part. I'm not going to tell you that. Okay? It's just an example. Okay? So the thing about this thing, it teaches you not to be so greedy. That's what our parents used to say. Do not be greedy. Do not destroy something. Eat just what you want to eat. But him, he did the opposite. And he lose out. And he paid the price. He almost starved to death after that. Okay? That's a story. Another example of a story. All right?
I love that story. Nucham told me that again recently. And I know that part, that last part too. That's a funny part.
Oh. Nobody forget that part. I always like that too.
So we have a question from Facebook from Sam. Sam is wondering if you've ever heard any stories connecting our religion with the religions in the East across the sea.
Say it again. What is it? I didn't catch it.
Have you ever heard any stories that connect our religion with the religions in the East across the sea?
No, I never heard. I mean, there might be one, but not very clear. Okay. But there is a story that people know across the sea. They know that people there, and they know they predicted like the copies did. He saw that. That's how they know it. Their vision and their dream quest, they knew that. But I think to actually see it before it happened, it didn't happen, but only in their mind. See, remember I said, people in those days, they have developed their mind and they begin to be more like what they call to their prophet. They can see, visualize ahead of things that's going to happen. And they know that there are people there and they know they will come here. They knew it. They even told their own people, animals and things. They said, and we say it's our fulfillment. See what I mean? They know people across before we say it's our long time. There are so many things that I like that. So many stories that are short. And they sort of connect us into a long story. And they also know something that you may want to know. Maybe you ever hear that they know about this people being in space. Our ancestors knew that. They know that some being visited here, somewhere here in maybe south. They were here, and then they left. They went back somewhere in the stars, they say. That's what the white men found south in Mexico. They wanted to know how did those stone buildings built, all covered with the moss and everything. That's what our grandparents talk about that. Do you want to hear some more? There's so many stories. There's so many, yeah. I know the short ones, I know the long ones. I just cut them short, But I don't like to do that. I like to tell part one and then next time another part. I like to do that.
I have a
But since
question
we got the time, yeah.
that relates to telling another story. Have you ever heard of the one about Misaki Jack being trapped by birch trees?
Okay. Any particular that you want to hear again, or that you want? Which
We
one
don't
was
know.
speaking last?
We don't know what we don't know, so whatever you'd like. Which one should we hear?
As I told you at the beginning, I wanted to prove that our ancestors know many things that the white men don't know. That's what I want to emphasize in my story. Because when the white men came in, Christopher Columbus, he thought he found monkeys without a tail. And he went back and yelled that, he told a lie, okay? He was totally wrong. This is the one I like, the story I like. You remember I told you that people know the people from stars? There's a short story I'm going to tell. It's a long story, but it's so long. It's a short one I'm going to tell you. In time, at that time, I can't tell you the time. Here, our people here, some places in Canada, sometimes they were living peacefully the way we are. I mean, we were not always very, kind, but at least they were livable, okay? And it so happened that this year, sometimes there were strange people who came in from the south. They came in and they picked the innocent children, like teenagers, the ones that not yet began to be married or anything, even the boys. They take those and they carry themselves far away, where they say where there's no winter. And there, these young people were taken over. They were respected. They were just like something that is really neat to be survived with. So they take those people back, they're young people, and then in time, each month, they will kill one and sacrifice it over there in this sacrificial place. And then they pray. After they have the skin them, and then the blood drink it, and the meat, they cut the pieces, each one to have that extended their life, those beings. And that's what one of them, one young boy managed to escape that kind of a thing. And he returned here and tell the story. Nobody believed him. They thought he was just dreaming. One thing that he tells was, in a place it's so hot, and also there is a water on the trees, and in that water, it's a river that comes in like a tide in the sea. And there are fish or animals in there that has a long, scaly body, very sharp teeth, and a tail. This young man described these. And people don't believe him. They just didn't believe him. They think it's a dream. And he says also there's a being, animals there, look like us, but they got a tail. And they stay in a tree, and they have some kind of a fruit they eat. So no one believed them. People will never go there. And also they mentioned about the water, the seal that looks like a duck nose. There. Even that they don't believe. But you know these now, eh? You know them? The alligators. They are what they call that with duck-billed kind of animal on water. And then there's alligators and also monkeys. See, he was telling the truth. But people over here who never went there, they just didn't believe him. And the sacrificial place, that's what they have these people from being there. That's what they were doing. Sacrificing the human being, then holy meal. See, we have those stories, just like the way people did. You know that, eh? They killed their God. But we didn't kill God. Like the Jewish people, they killed their own God and then sacrificed him. And that idea of sacrificing, how, like there's a teaching, says, drink my blood and eat my flesh and then you live. Same kind of story. They have it here a long time before the white man came. That is not written in a history book. We should put it on. That's what I'm thinking. Okay?
I could say.
Ego say, kinanasko mitten.